Welcome to the wedding day. I'm your host, Taylor Jackson. I've been a wedding photographer for a long, long time, done 1,000+ weddings, and I've been doing it for about 15 years now. On this channel, we talk about wedding photography, and I bring you behind the scenes on wedding days, including today, where we're going to be on the Sony A7 IV and only the Zeiss 55mm F1.8. And if you're interested, there is a free preset pack for wedding photographers in the description. If you're interested, there's a link to that. It's free. You can get it. And if you want to know all the settings for the images you're going to see, there is a full settings video over on the members website where you can see aperture, ISO, and shutter speed. Link in the description for that as well. So my A7 IV is set up. The button that I'm touching there on the top is the ISO dial. Next down is the shutter speed, and the front is aperture. And I'm very happy to have 3 dials like this on a camera. I really love the button layout. The only other button I've changed, we'll talk about in a little bit, is the C2 button, and that puts me into APS-C crop mode when I want to get a little bit more reach out of a lens, like say the 55 F1.8. To compare this lens to another lens that I've used recently on the channel, which is the Tamron 35 to 150 f2 to f2.8, in a getting ready situation, I prefer this 55 because it's smaller, a little less intimidating, and honestly, it's not nearly as heavy. To start the day off, you feel a little more agile. I don't know, it's maybe a mental thing, but it does everything you would need in this situation, and it does it in a really incredible way. Also, 1.8 aperture at 55mm means that if you are entering into a space where there's a lot of background elements, maybe bags, or just it's a wedding day, there's a lot of people in a small space usually, and to be able to make that disappear into something that's nice and pleasing and out of focus feels very, very nice. We then went to do the cliche, all dudes walk in straight line and talk to each other. But then, something even more exciting, we went to check out this amateur cricket game where I assume everyone playing probably thought they were being scouted, but turns out it's just us there for a wedding. Have a nice day, bye. Back inside. Time to get the party started here. As you can see, I'm set up for outside. Double dial is really nice to be able to make smooth movements across both ISO and shutter speed, and we decided to put on Doom. That's a real record that you can get. I'm kidding, we didn't listen to it, but I assume it's great and lovely, and I'm impressed that Alex had this in his collection. Getting back to the 55. For shots of details, for close-ups, for macro shots, it does a pretty good job. I'd still want something to get a little bit closer specifically for rings. However, for the other parts of the day, I feel like this is totally fine. We'll do some more detail photos a little bit later in this video of the actual reception. It was hot out, so the guys took their jackets off and hung out near the ceiling fan, and I headed along to the ceremony and first look location. I was photographing this wedding with my wife, Lindsay, so she was with the girls and I was with the guys, so I got here a little bit early to kind of scout and kind of pre-brainstorm any potential problems with maybe the ceremony, help find some first look locations. And the ceremony, as you can see, lighting really crappy for Alex's side. Very nice and lovely for her side though. It's very relaxing only having one lens. My camera bag is just a backup lens, backup camera body. That's all. Feels nice. Moving into the first look location. When there's key people around, I'm always getting Candids, and the background rendering, everything looks really nice with this lens. Getting a few different angles than Lindsay would usually get. I'm a little bit taller, so I'm able to get different angles. Don't know if I love it, don't know if I hate it, but I'll get the normal one next, just so I have both. Decide later in post. And another thing, if you are a second photographer, get some Instagram clips for your lead shooter, because Instagram doesn't really care about photos, but it likes videos now. And I bet you'll get hired back to do more second photography gigs, unless it's just with your wife and she's forced to choose you sometimes anyways. First look location, looking for somewhere with no sunspots on Alex's face when he turns around into that scene that we just photographed. Get the lead up photo. We did this first look as a stand at some distance and get Alex to turn around and react that way, rather than the, I don't know, usual walk up and tap on shoulder. There's no real right or wrong way to do a first look. It'll always be a little bit of a weird forced moment, but there is a real moment within that. And also it allows you logistically to get a lot of the wedding party photos, and in this case family photos, done prior to the ceremony so that they can actually just live their day and enjoy the experience of their day, rather than us taking them away at cocktails for the hour to do family photos and photos at the wedding party. Lindsay and I run our wedding days in a similar way, where we do a bunch of 5-minute photo sessions with a couple throughout the day. So we'll do a little quick, maybe 3 to 5 minute photo session right after the first look, and then maybe after the wedding party photos that we're gonna do next, and then a sunset session. And usually 15-20 minutes with a couple is all we need. Heading into the ceremony, a 55 is surprisingly great for Candids as well. Usually I rely on a 70-200 to get really close in these situations, but as long as you don't mind moving with your feet a little bit and walking around, 55 can get you some real nice natural feeling images that actually feel like you're in the scene. As we talked about a little bit earlier, as soon as people get outside of this tent, they're going to be in that weird side light and it is not so good, so I'm doing the most I possibly can in the good light under the tent. I feel like that's kind of all wedding photography is find good light and park yourself near it and hope that good things happen. Or if you're in control of the situation, bring the couple in and make them do things in good light. Short aisle today, really challenging. The background also not maybe the most aesthetically pleasing, and also the tent is not aesthetically pleasing. So these images will likely be delivered in black and white. If I am delivering black and white images, I'm usually including the color as well, unless there is a reason if it's terrible mixed lighting and only black and white works, which you're gonna see coming up in a minute here. That's the only time that I would deliver only in black and white. And as you'll be able to see here, so in the back, the light's okay. As they get a little bit closer, maybe halfway down the aisle, the light does get a heck of a lot better. So after 2 people down the aisle, I kind of figured out that that's the spot. So now I'm just aiming to get a good look kind of at that exact location when the light really hits them nicely. One of my favorite shots is always this shot here. Somebody looking down the aisle at their partner coming down the aisle, and unfortunately today in blinding sun, so really not an incredible shot. I will deliver it, but it's not something that I'm super proud of. But again, it's the way that the day was. Getting into that good light there towards the end, the aisle. And you can see the heavy dynamic range. I feel like the GoPro does a good job of doing that HDR and kind of bringing it all together, but you can definitely see how challenging it is there. Now, I mentioned in the intro that I have my C2 button that you can see up there that I just hit. That is set to put me into APS-C mode. So that's the APS-C image, and then I hit C2 again, go back to my camera, and I'm gonna take the same image, and you're gonna see that there's a lot of the tent kind of in that. And this is something that I use a lot during ceremonies, whether I'm on a 55 or I'm on a 70-200 or a 35-150. I'm always kind of bouncing around within that to get some different variations. All it is essentially doing is cropping in camera, so you don't have to crop it in post-production. So if you want to crop in post, that's fine. Save yourself that little extra step of work and just get it right in camera. Here's one of the more challenging scenes. So it's just so dynamically hot in the back and so shaded in the front where they're not looking at any light that it had to go black and white. Into cocktails, ignoring everyone in the bad light over there and focusing more on the people in the good light over here. And there's kind of 2 ways to run a cocktail session as the candid photographer. You can do the candids, or you can ask people that are in groups to smile and face towards the camera, or you can do a mix of both. There's a 1.5 option as well. Whatever you're gonna choose, this 55, especially when you have space like this, will get you through. Sometimes you have to go to a 35, maybe if it's an interior cocktail hour and a group of 10 people all want a photo together. I've discovered that I never really need much more wideness than a 35 most wedding days. The one exception being sometimes if they want a ceremony group shot, that I have to use maybe a 24 or a 16 or something a little bit wider. But I would say overall, on my second camera body typically is a 35mm lens if I need it, and then my main is usually an 85 or in today's case a 55. Heading inside to do a few more candids and then do details. Basically, if you're the second photographer, you should get into the room as soon as everything is set up and get those clean, hopefully empty room detail shots. Start with a section that there's no one. Find the table that's in the best light in the entire room, or make your own light if you have to, and do all of the details, menus, place cards, everything off of that table. And then head to the head table once flowers are set up. Usually flowers are coming in from the ceremony, so that's typically the last to be set up, and get some place cards of the couple and any other things that they've added to that table. Also, you'll notice that I'm framing out things like the fire extinguisher and the pull station on the right side there. It's just easier to frame them out in real life rather than Photoshop them later. This is an app called Alpenglow that will tell you golden hour times and give you a bit of a window. It's mostly accurate, but yeah, it's open to interpretation of where you are. If you're in a valley, obviously things are going to change. You can also use an app called Sunseeker, and it will actually give you an AR preview of where the sun will be. And again, as I mentioned, mostly accurate. You can see that the sun is actually a bit to the left of where it's marking the sun to be, which it marks it behind a tree, which is a problem, but the sun's actually coming through this beautiful little area here. So we realize that this is the 5 minutes that we have to go out So we grab the couple, we do our sunset session. The 55 is kind of the perfect lens for this section of the day. Lindsay's on the 85 Samyang, which is also a great lens. However, you lose a little bit, you focus a little bit more on the couple and you lose a little bit of the background and the side ground whenever you're at 85. And I feel like I was more easily able to incorporate other elements into the photos naturally, which I think worked really well in this scene. There are definitely venues that you don't want to show anything else that's going on in the scene, and an 85 or even a 7200 or a 135 might be a better choice. But for today, this worked out really, really well. Again, this was just another one of the 5-minute sessions. Go for a walk down that pathway, walk towards us, away from us, get really nice and close together, walk over here and do the same thing. And then we tested our luck and we went out on the golf course a little bit and we did a few photos out there. We figured it was end of the day, all the golfers would be in. Be respectful of the place you're at. Don't just run around on a fairway if it's an active golf course. And maybe you'll make it on the preferred vendor list rather than being banned from the venue forever. Moving into dinner, we've preferred definitely since 2020 to have our own table, which also means you can bring out a laptop, and what Lindsay's doing is actually culling and editing the entire wedding. I'll talk a little bit more about how you do that automatically in a moment. But first, shout out to the battery. So one single battery has been in this camera today, 37% remaining, and it shot 2,000 images. So if you're looking at battery charts, know that they are wildly inaccurate. This camera only gets 300 photos per battery. Aftershoot is what will automatically cull weddings for you, or at least give you a good head start. Link in the description below for that. And Imagen, just upload your Lightroom catalog of unedited photos and it will edit them all through AI for you. 1,500 images for free down below. Definitely a game changer in the wedding space. You can edit everything at the wedding and leave and go home. That's all for today. Don't forget to check out the settings video over on the members website, and all the presets that you've seen are also available to members. Thanks for being here. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you again next time.